wouldn't let Go ahead.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Michelle Hammonds, and I am the principal of pre-K through 6th grade for Sale Academy. Also with me today, I have Dr. Julia Ramirez. She's the principal of Sale Academy for grades 7 through 12. We have Michelle Pedalino. She is our principal in residence. We have Dr. Moulton, our superintendent, and also Audrey Torres, our Chief Innovation and Strategy Officer. So as we begin, just a few things about Zoom. If you've never participated in a Zoom meeting, Zoom will be the platform that our teachers will be using to instruct our students when they have live interactions with them. To utilize Zoom, at the bottom of your screen, you notice that you have a mute button where you can mute and unmute yourself. We do ask to keep yourself muted so that everybody can hear. And then when you have a question, we'll call on you and you'll be able to unmute yourself at that time. There's also a button where you can stop your video so that your screen is blank, or you can turn on your video so that we can see you. You'll find that there's a chat box where you can type in questions, and we will have people monitoring the chat and answering chat questions as well. And there's a reaction button. The reactions button gives you a thumbs up and a clap, or if you want to react to something that's been said. So if when we begin, we're gonna start with some of the most asked questions first, and go ahead and kind of get those answered right out of the gate. And then we're gonna open it up to additional questions. If you'd like to ask a question, if you click in the participants window, you can see a list of participants, and there is a raise hand button. And if you raise your hand with the raise hand button, we'll know to call on you. You can also raise your hand holding it up like this, and we'll scroll through the cameras and check on the cameras and try to call on you as we can. So to get started, one of our first most asked questions is, will kids be on the computer for 6 straight hours? And the answer is no. Your kids will not be on the computer for 6 straight hours. We do have times built into the day that we are requesting that they log in, because from feedback from parents during the spring, our parents and our students wanted to see their teachers. They wanted to have their teachers teaching them, and they wanted to interact with their peers. So in order to do this, we will have live synchronous sessions throughout the day. At middle school and high school, that will look like at the beginning of a class period, because they will follow a normal bell schedule. At the beginning of the class period, they would log into Zoom. They would have a live lesson with their teachers, where the teacher is doing different activities. And then after about 20 to 30 minutes, they would sign off, and then they would work on asynchronous work for the remainder of that class period, although the teacher would still be available throughout the entire time to do one-on-one interventions, to chat with them in Canvas using the inbox, or if they needed to do a small group and stay online and continue to have that conversation because they weren't quite understanding the material, the teacher would be available to them the entire class period. Now, I know many of you want work, and so during that time, those sessions would also be recorded in case the student missed that session, and that would be posted to Canvas daily so that the student could log in and view that video later that day on their own time. And that way you could also see the instruction and assist your students as needed. At the elementary level, they will have some times as well that they are logging in. And again, it's kind of the same thing, but it won't be just sitting there and listening to someone talk. The teacher may ask the students to stand up and walk around the room. And if it's elementary, maybe they're finding something that's a circle in the room that they're in. So they'll have some times where they're getting up, and although they may be live, they'll have breaks and things that they'll be interacting with during that time. So I wanted to clear the air with that to begin with. So know your students will not be online for 6 hours a day. However, they will have a full instructional day. They will have assignments in all their class periods that they need to complete throughout the day. So there will be some, work with that. So I'm going to open up the next question to Ms. Petalino. Ms. Petalino, what is our most popular question number 2 that is asked? Ms. Petalino, you have to unmute yourself.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the SAIL program. Our next most popular question is, will my student be provided a device and a hotspot? And so, yes, when parents sign up for the SAIL program, we are giving the list of students to each home campus. And the home campus will be providing devices for the students and also a hotspot, a way of getting onto online for your students to be able to have synchronous learning as well as asynchronous learning with a computer device.
Dr. Ramirez, can you hit number 3, the number 3 most asked question?
Good afternoon, everyone. The number 3 most asked question we get is, can I move my child back to the on-site program? So the way it works is once you sign up for SAIL, your child will participate in the SAIL program until the end of the grading period. So basically when your child would get their report card. So for elementary school, that would be at the end of the 9-week grading period. And for for elementary and middle school, it will be the end of the 9-week period. For high school, it will be the end of the 6-week period. Opposite of that, if your child is on site and you decide, I'm a little too nervous for the on-site, I would rather them just be back in SAIL, be in remote learning, what we're going to do is we're going to have an intake process where we're going to accept kids every Monday. We're trying to kind of keep it easy so that the teachers know that every Monday new students could be added to their class, and that'll be a good time to transition from on-site to fully remote. So with that said, we're going to go ahead and open it up now for questions.
And I just want to let you know that we will have SAIL Town Hall in Spanish tomorrow at 2 o'clock. I'm going to have that information translated in case anybody is on the call that wants to attend the Spanish version. Rodolfo?
Sí, para las personas que hablan español, mañana estaremos dando las instrucciones en español. Ya se envió las invitaciones para que estén al tanto. Gracias.
Thank you. Okay. So please raise your hand or let me know if you're interested in asking a question. I'll go through and see if I see anybody. Okay. Okay, Matt, did you have a question?
Yeah, hi. So thanks for doing this. We appreciate it. We're certainly confident in everything that you guys are doing. We appreciate all of the time and effort that you're putting into this. So thank you so much. My question is, At the end of the grading period, my son, Aiden, will be going to Austin. Will he be in touch with any of the teachers that he would have in Austin, or any of the other kids having learning opportunities with their respective teachers, depending on where they're going, elementary, middle school, it doesn't matter? Or is this going to be exclusive to SAIL? And then once we go back in person, if that should happen, will this be a completely new transition with different expectations, different modes of learning, etc.?
So the answer to that is yes and no. SAIL is staffed by teachers from across the district. So we have teachers from every campus. We have teachers from Austin. We have teachers from Central. We have teachers from Collegiate. However, the SAIL teachers are SAIL teachers for the year. So what that means is when your student goes back to Austin, he would have Austin teachers, but he would not have that same teacher that he had in SAIL. And some of his teachers throughout the day would not necessarily be from Austin. They would be from the other campuses. So we have teachers, like I said, from every campus, but they would be exclusively with SAIL for the year. We are, however, working very closely with the principals and through CLCs and keeping in contact with them to ensure that, we try to have as much continuity with instruction between the different areas as possible.
The other thing I would say is that we worked really hard with the principals from the middle school and the high school. And if you notice, we're all on the same schedule. And in high school especially, we made a really big change to a chunk scheduling is what we're calling it. And so students are following an odd even day. So the first day they're going to go to their odd classes 1, 3, 5, and 7. And then the next day they would do their even classes, periods 2, 4, 6, and 8. So we did that so that students would have 4 classes a day to focus on. And it's the same for middle school. The middle school is following the same schedule. So SAIL is aligned with Central, Collegiate, and Austin. That way, schedule-wise, we're still on the same page so that if students transition, their schedules won't change drastically. So we're hoping that will also help with that. And the other thing I would add is that a lot of our elective teachers you're going to see are going to be from the home campuses. So while core teachers might be SAIL teachers specifically, elective teachers we're utilizing pretty much all of the middle schools and the high school for electives.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, for the most part. I guess my concern is also with the content that they'll be learning. Like we forced him to do his summer reading and his will that be moot? Or do I don't know about the other campuses, do they all have the same book list and whatnot, or is this one of those he wasted a summer reading and learning?
So I can kind of speak to that as well. Because all the students are still assigned to their home campus, even though they're enrolled in SAIL, within their Canvas courses, they'll have a lot of their same peers from their grade level peers within that Canvas course. And so yes, the summer project is still, for Austin, is still a requirement, and they're still getting a grade for that summer project from Austin, because we want to keep that continuity of instruction between the campuses. And so there is some uniqueness between each campus, and we're doing our best to make sure that, again, that we're aligned to that campus for each student, because to me, it's ultimately about the student and the experience that they have given the situation. And I did want to mention one thing: the bell schedule for middle school is the 4 periods a day, but instead of doing odd and even day like the high school is doing, it's 1, 2, 3, 4 on A days and 5, 6, 7, 8 on B days. But across the 3 middle schools and SAIL, we do have alignment in our bell schedule at the middle school level.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm going to go ahead and answer some of the questions that are inside the chat. One was about when they signed up for SAIL, they had to acknowledge that they'll bring their kids on site for certain state and national requirements. That is due to state and federal testing. It also could be included in any AP and dual credit classes. Students will be required to be on site for those tests. That information will be provided, and we also will have a conversation with transportation about how that will work. Then the SAIL principles, the next question is, what about extracurricular activities like band for SAIL students?
Yes, band is part of the elective choices that students will be able to partake in. So they would be in band with us, and then when they went back to their home site, they would continue with band.
And that would look like we mentioned at the high school and the middle school level, a lot of the elective teachers. So the core teachers would be strictly SAIL teachers, but a lot of the elective teachers, basically the elective teachers are having a built-in virtual period. So during their normal course roster, they might, on-site teacher might, for the electives, might teach first, second, and third period face-to-face, but their fourth period class might be the period that they're teaching their SAIL kids band or choir or theater or art for some of those electives. And that's how we're able to have that continuity between them. And that's why we aligned our bell schedules to allow for that.
Thank you. The next question that several people have asked is about how will the students get GT classes and how will that be handled?
So again, for GT, we are requiring all the SAIL teachers have to have their 30-hour GT certification, and we'll be working with advanced academic specialists from across the district to ensure the differentiation is there in the system, that they're getting the extension activities and things that they need. I know some people have asked, will the GT students be clustered? Because I know in the elementary, a lot of times GT students are clustered into one class. With the nature of the way SAIL is kind of set up, the answer is yes and no. Like we'll keep them together, but there will be other kids other than GT students in the class more than likely. However, in Canvas, it allows you to kind of create different groups. And so they would be able to have a group in Canvas within their course where they have different coursework that's kind of aligned to their needs. So maybe in the face-to-face, they would have, their other peers in their classroom. And we're also working with them. We have different times like intervention time built into our schedule each day. So during that intervention time, if you notice at the middle school level, for example, there is time to have some one-on-one GT, meetings and different things to meet the different small group needs, such as 504 and items like that.
Thank you, Michelle. Next question is from Angie about, will kids from each physical campus be grouped together in SAIL classes?
More than likely, the answer to that is yes. We'll know more as registration continues. The last day is August 15th, so we still have a week before we'll really even know exactly what our numbers are. So more than likely, yes, depends on the numbers.
Thank you. Heather would like to know, will elementary school SAIL students have any instruction in art, PE, and music?
Yes, that is built into their school day because that's part of their required curriculum in the state of Texas.
If a student, Bob wants to know, if a student is in band, but they're doing SAIL for the first 9 weeks and they decide to return to the campus or the first grading period, will they be able to rejoin the band on their campus?
Absolutely. The students in SAIL will be able to be in band while they're here with us, and more than likely they will be with their actual teacher from their home campus. And then when they decide to go back to on-site, band will be in their schedule just as it was at SAIL.
Next question is, when will we know how the schedule will work for students that have IEPs?
Ms. Edwards in the special education office is working with each family directly to find out what needs are for each family. And then we will work with her to make sure that we follow any IEPs and any of your students' needs.
Okay, next question. Will there be sports or sports participation allowed on the campuses?
Yes, students are able to participate in extracurricular activities. And just as in the regular school year, transportation will not be provided to students to and from practice, but they are allowed to attend sports and the events in practice.
Matt would like to know about if there's a sale uniform. So I think it's a good time to talk about proper dressing when you're on the camera.
Absolutely. So no, there is not a specific sale uniform. So your student won't have to wear the Austin green or the red or the blue or the purple while they're at sale. When they return to home campus, the dress code, school dress code applies. But that being said, that we do want to make sure what they're wearing is appropriate when they are on camera. I know there's a person that asked for they be able to see their classmates. And yes, they will be able to see their classmates and interact with their classmates just like we are interacting right now. And so we do want to make sure that, when they are on camera, that they are appropriately dressed. But there is not a uniform.
Thank you. How will SEL handle dual credit classes for high school as well as AP classes?
So for dual credit classes, we have stated that we are going to follow the rules of the college. So for example, our classes like welding and cosmetology that require contact hours, students will be required to participate in those contact hours, which means they would have to go to Ball High for welding, or they would have to go to the center on Broadway for their cosmetology courses. For AP courses, our Ball High teachers that are AP or honors teachers will actually have a virtual period scheduled in their day so that our SEL students will still utilize those AP and dual credit teachers. So they will still have the same curriculum and the same access to the same teacher they would be if they were at Ball High.
Great, thank you. Next one is, will the students be able to see other students at SEL, such as during class time?
Yes, and the answer is yes, because we will be, again, we mentioned they will have live interactions utilizing Zoom, much like we are doing right now. And those videos will be recorded and posted. So even if they miss that video, they can still see the teacher's instruction and also, peers and participate in or watch those conversations that they may have missed.
Thank you. Lynn, Cousins, go ahead. You might have to unmute yourself.
We still can't hear you, Miss Cousins.
Yep. Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. I am an off the island grandma, and I'm going to be helping with my grandkids who are in Galveston and working at home. So is there a way that I can get information from Canvas or the teachers that I can keep up? Or do I have to get that information through my daughter?
Yes, actually your daughter can sign you up through Skyward as a contact, and then you could have access that way, or you could have access through your daughter. There are two platforms that we are going to have all parents make sure they understand and know how to utilize. One is that Skyward Family Access, which is where you go to see grades and attendance. And then that way you can see, those two things for your kids. And then for Canvas, there is a way to actually pair your child's Canvas with the parent so that the parent can follow along and see what's going on in Canvas courses, make sure their child is turning in assignments. And we're actually going to create videos and how-tos for parents so that you can watch videos on how to do that. And we'll also have probably town halls like this, called parent meetings with SAIL, so that, we can make sure you do know how to use those two as parents. And maybe even your kid can help you get onto them, because all the kids know how to do the Skyward to get their grades, I promise.
Okay, so do I contact her first, or what do I do next?
Yes, if the parent would have to contact the campus, And the campus registrar, the home campus registrar, can help get you signed up for that.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, next question is, how will science labs be handled for students in high school? So any kind of labs?
So we have some great high school science teachers that are on board. One is Miss Ectify and one is Miss McGill. Both of them, you've probably seen them all over the Ball High Facebook because they get lots of grants and they do lots of hands-on fun activities. But you're gonna see a lot of what we call choice boards, where students are going to get a lot of choices in what kind of assignment they turn in. So some might be participating in labs, some might be participating in virtual field trips, and some might be watching videos and analyzing what happens in a video. So the science teachers have already started coming up with creative ideas to keep the students engaged in their science class, because, you know, at Ball High, we pride ourselves on our CTE and science classes being very hands-on. So we're going to do what we can to bring those same engaging experiences to the SAIL class.
Thank you, Julia. This leads us into our next question, actually. Students who plan to take dual credit classes, but they're going to be fully online with us at SAIL for the remote option. Will they need to come to campuses to Ball High School for those courses? Also, if they have a CTE or dual credit course, welding or any of those, will they need to come up there to the campus for any hours?
So the best thing I can say is that we're following the rules of the college for the dual credit courses. So for example, dual credit English is going to be a virtual class, and so it will be a virtual class for a SAIL student. Now, again, welding is one of those classes that requires contact hours. And so your child will have to go to Ball High for a welding class because they have to have that practice in person. So it depends on the course, but we're following whatever the college's rules are for the class. If it's a class that, as you know, we have Ball High teachers who teach on site. If it's one of those type of classes, the Ball High teachers will again have a period built in for virtual teaching so that they can still touch the students in SAIL, so that they can still get through and have that time, face-to-face time with the students in SAIL.
Thank you. Dallas would like to know how many students per teacher will be at SAIL. Please talk about communication between teachers so you are working together to advance my student. So how many students per teacher approximately?
That's a real tough question to answer again, because August 15th, next weekend, is when it will close. So we won't have actual numbers until next week. But we're trying to keep the ratios, well, it won't be the same as on site, because as on site, we are trying to go to the lower ratios for safety protocols. I can't even give you a best estimate because every class could be different. So I can answer that question next week if you want to send me an email and give you real numbers.
Thank you. Brittany wants to know, will students be counted absent if they miss the schedule log-in time?
And the answer to that is no. So we have flexibility from the state in how we collect attendance. So there's kind of two parts to it. There's attendance requirements, and then there's grading requirements. So according to the state, we can capture attendance in basically 3 different ways. One is the student logging in to their Zoom and participating in their live synchronous instruction. So if they're participating for that class period, then yes, there will be marked present for that class period. Now, in the middle school and high school, they have multiple class periods, so that's one way for each period if they participated in their live instruction. But that being said, again, if they miss it, it'll be recorded, they can watch it later. But then how do they get their attendance? Well, they can get their attendance through submitting assignments and doing their coursework and engaging with our learning management system, which is Canvas. Canvas tracks how long that they've spent in the learning management system. So as long as for each course that they are logging in and doing work, they can capture attendance that way as well. Now, that being said, there's the grading requirements. And so if they, miss all their live instruction, that's where a lot of the teaching is going to happen. And so, yes, they can watch that video, but if they don't watch the video, they may miss that teaching if they're trying to just go to the assignment. So we want to make sure that they're doing their work. And as long as for attendance, as long as they submit, one piece for that day, it'll count as attendance. But if they don't finish all their assignments for that day, it may not count for their grade, if that makes sense.
Thank you. How are we working to make sure it's an easy transition between SAIL and on-site and vice versa?
So a lot of those, one would be we align bell schedules at the middle school and high school level. We are meeting with the middle school, elementary school, and high school principals on a regular basis. We are developing procedures to communicate between the campuses weekly if they're coming to us, or at the end of the grading period if they're leaving us and going back to on-site, and kind of developing processes of all the things that we need to do to make sure that it's a smooth transition for those students. I mean, and that comes down to, are we communicating with child nutrition about a change? Because if they're coming on, they're going to be on site with, or they're going to be with SAIL, even when everybody goes back on site, SAIL students will still have access to the free breakfast and free lunch. We'll have established locations. It'll be kind of similar to summer pickup, where they would pick up at a certain time at a certain location. And they would get 5 lunches and 5 breakfasts at that time. But if they go back on site, we will have to communicate with child nutrition that won't be needed. Transportation is something, if you're utilizing school transportation, once you go to SAIL, you would not necessarily need that transportation. But if your child returns to on-site, you may want to redo that, school transportation. So we are developing procedures for all these transitions to help ensure that there's a smooth transition for your students.
Thank you. Dallas, you have your hand up. Did you have another question?
I do. The second part of my question was, how are the teachers going to work together? Like you said that my middle school student has 8 teachers. Are they going to have any kind of communication between them that is so that my student is progressing as a team together,
So our teachers will have planning periods just like on-site campus, and they'll have required times that they have to plan together. I know that myself and Dr. Ramirez and Ms. Petalino all plan on joining their PLCs on a regular basis to ensure that they're planning. In an environment like this, it is more important to make sure that we keep the end in mind. So knowing where our students need to go and where they're at and how we get there. So being very meaningful and structured in our planning with frequent checks for understanding to make sure they're progressing. And also, if once they're grasping it, where do we take them from there? So a lot of it will be essential in the planning time, and we will be working together on a regular basis. Our teachers will sometimes be with us face-to-face doing planning time, and sometimes they will be, in a classroom or another location doing their planning, but they will be doing lots of planning together.
Thank you. If both parents are working 8 to 5, can middle school students still choose the SAIL program?
Yes, they can still, that is absolutely the parent's choice and what will work best for them. If you visit the SAIL website, which is at gisd.org/SAIL, we actually have the schedules online posted so you can see what the normal school day would look like Monday through Friday for your child. So once you see that, you can, work with your child to see if that's something that they can stick to that schedule, so that you will have less to do when you get home from work. Obviously, if they can log on at the beginning of each class period, that would be ideal, because that's when they would see their teacher face-to-face on through the Zoom meeting. And then worst case scenario, if they didn't make it to classes, again, like Ms. Hammond said, you are able to see the recorded classes, and that your child can work on, watch that video and work on the assignment that the teacher presented for that day, and your child would still get attendance as long as it was completed by 11:59 p.m., which I know we don't all want to stay up till midnight, but I know our high school kids, that's usually their favorite time to work. So they do have until the end of the night to still be able to catch up and turn their assignments in to get that attendance.
Thank you, Dr. Ramirez. I'm going to have you answer the next question as well. If a student is participating in an extracurricular such as cheerleading or programming that's after school, or that's at a different time than a period normally is, what is the situation with that and transportation?
So Our kids, again, at Ball High are allowed to participate in the extracurricular activities. So they are allowed to go to campus if they need to before school or after school. You mentioned specifically cheerleading. I want to say that might actually be in the middle of the day, that class. So we would work with Ms. Cormier to see what that would look like if a student couldn't make it on their days that they were scheduled to go. But they are allowed to participate in that, in those practices and with whatever event is going on with that organization. And transportation, again, is not provided. Just like at a regular on-site school, we don't provide transportation to and from practice. Clearly if we actually do get to have a football game and there is a game and it's decided that cheerleaders or tornettes or some of the other extracurricular groups are going, the district would provide transportation for that event, but not the practice.
Okay, next question is, will all assignments be submitted through Canvas, and will there be any printing required?
So yes, all assignments will be submitted through Canvas. We are communicating with our teachers that not everybody has access to a printer. So some of the things that will be happening is at the elementary and middle school level, some of the resources that they have that they would have in the classroom, such as some of the textbook consumables, not necessarily the full textbook because there's a digital version, but the actual consumables, some of those things will be sent home with them. Or we'll have a pickup day and they'll be able to pick up some of those materials. But the other thing is we're teaching our teachers to be mindful that not every family has access to a printer. So designing assignments that can be done without printing so that they can either submit electronically, or maybe it's something that they do on a piece of notebook paper or foldable. At the elementary and middle school level, there's lots of teacher time activities that teachers do, such as foldables and other flip charts and other hands-on activities that they make. Collages, drawings, things like that, that you wouldn't necessarily be able to do on a computer. And so there is a basic supply list for sale, which includes white paper, some scissors, crayons, some basic school supplies so that your student has that for them and so they can do those activities. And they would take a picture at that time and upload it to Canvas in that way.
Thank you. For elementary students, will SAIL students still have the same consistent teacher every day, or will that change daily?
No, the SAIL teacher for elementary would be the same teacher. So pre-K through 2, they would be self-contained just like at the elementary school, on-site elementary schools. And grades 3 and 4, they would be departmentalized, meaning they have a switch teacher. So one teacher would teach math, the other teacher would teach their ELA, and then your homeroom teacher would teach their science and social studies. So very similar to the model that you would see at the elementary school on-site.
Thank you. How are 504 accommodations going to be handled through a virtual learning environment?
So the great thing about the schedules that we've built with the synchronous or asynchronous time is during that asynchronous time, our teachers will be able to have small group interventions or even one-on-one tutorial sessions with students through Zoom. So the teachers will schedule very specific times with students so that we can meet IEP needs, we can meet 504 needs, we can meet GT needs. So it might not happen in that whole group instruction time at the top of the period, but it can happen within the hour after that period begins. It's actually built into the schedule.
Thank you. Monica would like to know how similar the SAIL schedule is to the first 4 weeks schedule that will be on the on-site remote learning. There's a difference between SAIL and remote. And so are the schedules going to be the same? What's the difference between going to SAIL versus choosing the on-site and having the remote learning for the first 4 weeks?
So let me take that one. Hi, everybody. Kelly Moulton. That's really part of our learning curve. What will those look like? Because when you think about the total of all the teachers in the district, 420 teachers, We'll be working with our SAIL teachers, which are a much smaller cohort, and we're again asking that this be for the entire year. So we in this group here have that pretty much under control. As we develop the on-site portion at our campuses, they will be following their bell schedules much the way they would on site, because they too want their transition to be very seamless. We're taking those 4 weeks of transition that were provided to us by the state so that we can ensure that we have a healthy community before going back to school for our students and our staff. We will, if you don't know, be offering opportunity for those on-site students to come and have some experiences on campus in small groups, limited groups, so that they understand what that's going to look like and feel like when they come back to school. We're most conscious of our transitioning students, our pre-K, our K, our 5th grade, and our 9th grade, because they've never been on their new campuses before, and we want to give them that experience. But as far as what's it going to look like on SAIL versus what it's going to look like on the on-site transitional time, I don't think we have a clear indication of that yet. We'll be working that out. But the expectation, again, as you've heard from the SAIL principals, is we've already worked out those class periods. So the framework is there. The details are not there yet, and we'll continue to work on those for you. We will continue to communicate those to you, stay in touch with the GISD website and the individual campuses. And when our teachers come back, you may not know, our teachers, they're working really hard, but they're not actually on contract till next week. And they will start making those phone contacts to you as families, as parents, as guardians, so that you know what's going to happen when we start back to school on the 24th.
Thank you, Dr. Moulton. We appreciate it. Next question is from Jennifer. She has a pre-K student, and she says if they go to therapy once a week midday, will they need a note if they miss any of the time, or would it be counted against them?
So I would say it's always best practice to obtain a doctor's note and still submit that note. Because SAIL is a little bit unique in our way of capturing the attendance, as long as she's doing her work and logs in other times, her attendance will be captured. But I would still encourage you to continue to submit those notes to make sure that your attendance is always correct.
Thank you. Heather would like to say thank you for handling these efforts and that we're doing a fantastic job. So thank you, Heather. Wes would like to know, how will Parent Square work? I'm going to go ahead and let Billy answer that. They might have answered it in the chat, but if he's on, he could verbally answer.
Yeah, we did a little bit. So Parent Square is going to be our new system. It's going to be for emergency notifications throughout the district if we need to do a mass call out to all parents and staff, but it's also going to be used campus by campus for communications from administration or teachers directly to parents. It's similar to what you guys might have signed up for if your school uses Remind or Class Dojo right now. Those will still be utilized by some schools as the year continues, but eventually we all want to get onto Parent Square. It'll be a seamless system that'll be district-wide and run from the sports center, so we can just all be on the same page and know about every message that's going out. So that's really all that Parent Square is. It won't feel different for the parents too much if they're ever signing up for Remind. They get messages from their teachers already, and they'll still be getting emergency notifications if we ever have school closures for any reasons from us.
Okay, thank you. I'm just scrolling through here real quick. Just to recap, we do have a list of the schedules that are online and available for you to view. Will kids' locations be changed from their current campus if they go to SAIL, or will they lose their position at their original campus?
Students are still enrolled in their home campus, so they are never actually unenrolled from their home campus. So their spot is secure in their home campus when they come to SAIL. You will actually probably still see the report card come out from the home campus.
Okay, one thing that was explained in here, how available will the teacher be to assist students throughout the day? And it was explained in here that they will have hours for office time posted, and you'll be able to contact the teachers during those hours. In response to Dr. Moulton's statement, will the SAIL students be able to also review the campus? So they'll be familiar with the campus since they will opt out of SAIL at one point. So are they able to go and view their original campus? That answer is something that we'll have to talk with the actual principals that are for the on-site. I'm not sure what their current schedule is, but you're still listed as a student of that campus. You're just being serviced by SAIL, and we're working with you for your virtual needs and your remote needs. Is there something else that you'd like to add, Julia or Michelle?
No, that's a great idea. It is a great idea because you are right. They can choose to go back on site, and we want, you know, what's best for our students. We want them to be successful. So we will definitely work with our principals to let them know that, you know, the SAIL students might be coming to those in services for those students so that, you know, we can get them ready for the school year, no matter what.
Okay. Sample schedules show pre-K as a half day. Do we choose a session of morning or afternoon?
So that's a good question, and I will be completely transparent. That's not something we had actually discussed about whether they would be morning or afternoon. I think that's entirely going to be based on enrollment, but I think it would be fair to say that we could, you know, work to look at parent preference to an extent. I mean, if we had all parents choose one or the other, you know, we might have to do some divisions, but that's something that we have not discussed. And so I will add that to our list to make sure we're discussing and coming up with decisions for that.
When will high school students have their schedules?
That is the question of the day. We are working on building the schedule as we speak right now. So we are hoping that they will have them by the end of next week.
Great. So that's the end of the questions typed up. Is there anybody else that would like to verbally ask a question? Okay, Leah or Layla?
Hi, I had questions about extracurriculars that are regularly classes other than sports, other than cheerleading, like robotics or AV production or things like that that are really hands-on. Would the students be able to go to campus to participate for those, and you know, not in addition to cheerleading or football or other things like that?
Yes. Any extra? Oh, go ahead, Julia.
Okay, I was going to say that's a great question, especially for the high school level. What we're thinking we might do, it depends on how many students we're talking about to see what it looks like. Because, you know, as you know, robotics is scheduled every period. So it would be very difficult for a student to get to school second period, but then be back at home in time for third period. And, you know, we don't want any of that to happen. So we might create a 0 period or a 9th period and work with the teachers so that they can still get that hands-on time, because the classes you mentioned are very much hands-on: robotics, AV, the radio station, that kind of thing. So we'll look at that. We'll work that out with the parents and with the teacher that is over it, so we can figure out how to best manage that student's time in class.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Anybody else like to ask a question? I'm not seeing any more hands up.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
So, as me and my husband are working, will the workload be a lot for the children to do when parents aren't home? Or would it be okay for when we get home to help them finish their work before it's due?
I think the best answer to that is, I mean, the students will be having a full instructional day with normal course load. We, unlike in the spring, you know, students, there's a scope and sequence that they have to follow because they're getting all of their instruction for that year during SAIL at that time. And so and it will vary dependent on, grade level and things like that, but it is going to be more rigorous than the spring. And that's definitely something to think about and you'll know your student better, and everybody's home situation is a little bit different, but to what amount of work can be accomplished in just the evening alone. And like I said, and that's a very hard question to answer because again, it varies for, grade level. Do I think a high school senior could get all their work done in the evening? No. But do I think a pre-K or, kindergarten or first grade student could get most of their work done in the evening with parent support? Yes, because there's a different amount of expectation there.
Okay, Monica would like to know what electives will be available, including art, and some classes at Ball are very specific. Will those all be available?
Yes, so all the teachers at Ball High again will have a virtual period, and they will be utilizing that time to work with the SEL students, as well as the students that they might have in their classes that aren't on campus that day. But their priority will be the SEL students during that specific period. And for art, you know how great Miss Moore and Miss Lipo are. They've already told me that they will have bags ready for me to deliver to students if I need to, so that they get the materials that they need to do their art projects. So the teachers at Ball have been great. They're ready to work with our students. They don't want them to miss out on the hands-on experiences as well.
Okay, are there any other questions? Can you recommend a headset with microphone for parents to order perhaps?
I do not have a recommendation for that. I don't know if anybody else does.
It really depends on price point. We can definitely get some information for you depending on what price point, but it's different when we're purchasing from a district versus what you are able to purchase. If we have chosen to do on-site learning for the first 6 weeks, does the first 4 virtual learning weeks count as part of those 6 weeks?
So let's make sure this is something that I think has been confusing everybody. So for GISD, all students will start virtually on August 24th, and you have a choice. You can choose your home campus, and that home campus program will be virtually for 4 weeks. And as of today, September 21st is the day everybody would return on site, okay? If you choose the SAIL program, which is our remote option, you are actually going to be remote for as long as the rest of the school year if you so choose. So when you start with SAIL, you're on site, you're remote learning with SAIL from August 24th until the end of the next grading period is when you can opt to go back to on-site.
Okay, thank you. Dallas, do you have a question?
Well, my question is how physically are the kids going to be hopping from Zoom to Zoom? Is there going to be a link in Canvas that they just click on? So like that would make a big difference as to whether a parent actually has to be there if they can't get into the place where they're supposed to be.
Absolutely. So we will be working with our teachers. We were going to be utilizing the Canvas calendar. There's a calendar feature in Canvas, which is kind of like a digital planner. And teachers will post for their course their Zoom meeting links in that Canvas calendar. So a student would go to the calendar, they would find the day, and all their assignments that day, their Zoom links, anything that was due that day, it would be kind of like a ready-made agenda for them. And so we will be training our teachers on how to do that so that we have that very consistent. And then when we talked about earlier some of the videos that we'll be putting out for parents and things like that, how to use Skyward or how to get Canvas parent app, things like that, that will be included in there as, make sure you are familiar with the Canvas calendar. And then we'll spend the first week of school teaching students that first week of school all these features too. So each class they will have kind of a show and tell so that we familiarize ourselves, because a lot of our students, let me take that back. Some of our students, depending on the campus that they were at previously, are familiar with Canvas. Austin students, for example, have been using Canvas for a few years, but not every campus has been. And so we want to make sure that all of our teachers are teaching our students how to use Canvas at that time. And so that first week, like I said, will be kind of a show and tell, making sure our students are familiar with how to use Canvas.
Thank you. Next question was, if it's a kindergartner, what recommended device do we order? Does the parent order a tablet, was the question mark. I just wanted to make sure that everybody's aware that we are becoming a one-to-one district, which means that we will have one device per student that will be provided by GISD. Those checkout times for all GISD students will be shared through the schools, and we'll also share that information through SAIL. So all students will be able to check out a device. Some students who have a device already at home may utilize that device at home until we get all of the devices in. We're currently waiting, just like every other school district, for all of the devices that we ordered to come in. We did receive a Moody grant for $1.9 million, which allowed us to become a one-to-one district and be able to provide those devices. Currently, we're considering Chromebooks for all students, and some high school students, depending on the courses that they're taking, may get a laptop depending on the needs for those courses. But your student will be provided with a Chromebook, or you may utilize the device that is currently at your home, as long as everything is in operating order for your device and the use of Canvas. Okay, we're going to open it up to any other questions that you may have. We have about 5 more minutes left.
I saw a question in the chat that asked if it was our preference that eventually students use the GISD devices and not stay with their own. And that answer is yes. So eventually we will want all of the students to use the GISD devices once they are received. And the reason for that is, one, we're able to help troubleshoot. When the student is using their own personal device, and if something's going wrong, it's really hard for our technical support team to troubleshoot any issues that they may have with their learning. And also, when we're using our GISD device, our filters are in place and our things to help protect your students are in place. And so the answer is yes. As all the devices are deployed, we'll want them to use the GISD devices.
When you do check out your device, we will be providing information, and we will be posting information on how to access Canvas and all the needed items. So we'll make sure that you have that information. We had Gracie that had a question.
Oh, yes. Okay, so that was my question about the devices, but I have one more. And this may have already been addressed at the beginning. I apologize to the group. I'm wondering about if we choose the on-site version for option first, and then later decide to jump into SAIL, which I believe is an option at the end of the grading period, then how positioned are you to transition students from on-site to SAIL? So is there going to be like an orientation or some sort of way for the student to familiarize themselves with the new format then? What are the plans there? That might have already been discussed.
So you can, if you choose on-site from the beginning, you can switch to SAIL every week, basically. We're going to take kids in every Monday. You don't have to wait for the grading period to come to SAIL. It's just the reverse. If you want to go from SAIL back to your home campus, we're asking that you do it at the end of the grading periods. And as far as that transition, we purposefully did the schedules for middle and high school, and elementary is pretty much the same schedule. There might be some minutes off where students wouldn't even really recognize the time difference. But for middle and high school, they have the same number of periods, and it's the exact same bell schedule. That way, if they transition back and forth, they're already just going straight into the schedule they already have.
But as far as a student coming into SAIL at the later date, so prior to the school year, our teachers will be reaching out, and we will have kind of a virtual orientation to orient parents. It'll be probably in the form of a series of videos and checklists, kind of what you need to know about SAIL to get started type of thing. And so if you're transitioning, and let's say you're 3 weeks in or 6 weeks in, or we're 12 weeks into the school year, whatever time it is that you choose to switch to SAIL, we will have a process which includes a virtual orientation for parents and students to make sure that they're familiar with the process so that when they start, they know what they're doing.
Thank you, Michelle. Yolanda has a question.
Yes, my daughter will be going to middle school, and she's on the 504 program. How would the art meet the teachers before school starts? How would that work, like having odd meetings?
So those meetings you would still have ARD meetings and 504 meetings as required, and those meetings would more than likely be held via Zoom, so that it would include representatives from your student's home campus, like the ARD facilitator or the 504 coordinator at that campus, whom you probably are already familiar with, and then it would also include SAIL staff, so this teacher from SAIL or a SAIL administrator, so that we're working together, so that we're all on the same page in regards to your students.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Torres, can I just end on one note so that we can make one thing clear for everybody? GISD has done a fabulous job in creating wonderful opportunities for our students for the social and emotional learning piece. And we will stay in contact with our SEL specialist at the different campuses. And we also want you all to know that we do have a counselor that is dedicated specifically for the SAIL teachers, or for the SAIL students. It's Miss Temple. And I believe Miss Temple is on the Zoom meeting here, but we do have a counselor available. You still will be able to utilize the teen health services, and we will still offer social emotional support for all of our students.
Thank you. I just want to say thank you to all of the administrative staff at SAIL. We are really here to help you, and so we appreciate everything. We're going to go ahead and conclude this meeting, but we will have this posted onto the GISD website tomorrow at 2 o'clock. We will have the Spanish version. If you know of any other community members that would like to attend that, please inform them. And we appreciate all of you. Thank you.
Thank you.